Well, hey everyone. Say welcome to another Sunday setup. This is a time when we just take a moment to reflect on the week that we just had and then look forward to the week ahead. And we've just found that if we put some time in to thinking about our goals and the skills that we're practicing to try to help meet those goals, that we have just been a lot more successful. So we thought that we would share some of the knowledge that we have gained through doing this, and then of course some of Erin's knowledge through being a nutrition coach and a trainer for several years now. So Erin, what skill do you want to tell us about?
Yeah, what we're going to work on, this skill is called eating mostly whole, with an emphasis on the mostly part. And we'll break that down here in just a bit.
Yeah, so okay, eating mostly whole.
Yeah.
Why should we do that?
So there's a few big reasons why, right? I like to think of it as two main reasons, and one of them is kind of like two sides of the same coin, right? So when you eat foods that are mostly whole, that are found kind of in their natural state, right? What happens with those is that they contain fewer calories naturally, mostly due to like having fiber and extra water content. And because of those two things, plus a little bit more, you typically feel more full when you're having those. And there's just not that room, there's not that much room to cram so many calories in there, right? They're typically bulky for not as many calories going in there. And when you're eating foods like that, they're very filling, but with fewer calories. Great. And so people who eat whole typically just don't eat as many calories. Okay. And when you don't eat as many calories, it's easier to eat the correct amount and to kind of either lose weight or maintain your body weight, right? To kind of have what you want. So for the people we work with, one of their main goals is to look and feel better. And oftentimes that means losing a little bit of weight or even just maintaining. And so that's why whole foods can be one of the biggest things there. The other side of that coin is if you eat processed foods, it's like everything gets flipped. Processed foods they're more dense with calories, right? Okay. So a bite of processed foods typically is going to have more calories than a bite of whole foods, right? Or a serving of those things. And they're just typically not as filling. So not only are you getting more calories per bite or per serving, but when you eat them, you're not as satisfied. So you want to eat more. So it's kind of a double whammy.
Double whammy, yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. So I like to think of it very simply. If you're eating processed foods, it leads to eating more. And eating more leads to gaining weight. Yeah. And the inverse is true when you're looking at whole foods. When you eat whole foods, you typically eat a little less. And when you eat a little less, you tend to lose weight or maintain the same weight. And then the third reason, the kind of extra little bit there, is that whole foods typically just contain a few more minerals, a few more vitamins, a few more of the good stuff, the nutrients that help us grow and kind of be who we are. And so anytime that your gas tank is full on that, you typically just, again, look and feel a little bit better. Okay. Yeah, so those are the big whys.
Great. Great. Thank you for explaining that in such a good way. Okay, so now we know kind of why. Can you help us understand how?
The how we do it, right? Yeah. Okay. So one of the things I like to say is eating mostly whole is a skill. It's something that we practice, and it's totally fine if you're not really good at this right away. Yeah. Okay. There's some strategies that we'll do with it, but the key word here we talked about is mostly. I don't want anybody to eat only whole. That's not realistic. If you're only having, very natural foods, this is not how we do it, right? The goal is to practice until it becomes mostly, right? And so how we do that, kind of the first step, is consider choosing and eating foods that come from plants, that come from animals. They're animal sourced, right? And the idea, I've said this in the past, is that you're trying to eat from a farm, but not necessarily live on it, right? It's kind of a funny way of saying it, but the idea is, again, you're just choosing things that come more naturally. And so oftentimes with my clients, we'll use the example of an apple, right? So we have apples, we have applesauce, and then we have apple fritters, right? To help you kind of see the spectrum of wholes, whatever. Okay. So apples themselves, they grow on a tree. You could literally walk outside and pluck an apple from a tree and eat it. There's no processing. It's there, it's done.
So that's like the basics of a whole food, right?
That would be a whole food.
Pick it up, pick it from the bush, pick it from the tree, and eat it.
Exactly, right? Pears, lettuce, anything, right? It grows on the ground, it grows from a tree, it grows from a bush. Typically, that's what we're going to say is whole. Okay. And we'll talk about the animal stuff in a little bit. The apple sauce is, well, it's an apple, and it's been cooked, and it's been crushed up, and maybe a little sugar's been added, and maybe some preservatives, some things like that. It gets put into a jar, and that's, I would say, still mostly whole, right? You can look at it and be like, well, this is obviously still an apple. It's just been smashed up a little bit, right? So but it's undergone a little bit of processing.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't make it bad. It's just a little more processed, right? It's a lot easier to eat a lot of applesauce than it is to eat a lot of apples.
Sure.
Right? Think about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we move to apple fritters. Delicious, right?
Yeah,
We love our
yeah.
apple fritters here. Okay. So, and you think about apple fritters. Apple fritters don't grow on trees. You can't look at an apple fritter and be like, oh, I know exactly where that came from, right? There's often a lot of ingredients in it. You get flour, you get sugar, you get butter, you get baking soda, whatever. I don't bake enough, but we know what goes into that stuff. And then maybe there's some apple chunks and
a few little tiny apple
ones,
chunks.
right? And I think
maybe some cinnamon, which is kind of whole, but on its own.
Yeah. No. When you eat an apple fritter, it's hard to stop eating them, right? Like they just taste so good, you want to keep going. And again, those are chock.
And they don't keep you full very long. Like you might be full for a little bit, but they don't keep us full very long.
Exactly. So again, the idea there is to start seeing foods on a spectrum, right? Apples to apple fritters. And again, not to say that any food is good or bad, right? We're not giving it a moral judgment. It's really saying what's going to be most helpful. Sure. And most people would be able to, they'd go, that's easy. An apple is obviously the healthier, the more helpful choice. So that's again what you start to see.
And it doesn't mean that we can't ever have an apple fritter.
Exactly.
It just means that we're thinking about choosing mostly whole so that we have space to kind of have that apple fritter.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And I think that mostly is kind of you can use it a double meaning.
Yeah.
When you're looking at mostly whole, you're looking at something that is not as processed, right? Hey, you have your applesauce. And then mostly also refers to most of the time, right?
Okay.
You can still have some of the other stuff, but most of the time choose mostly whole foods. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, so one of the other things we were talking about is that this might feel a little overwhelming to tell someone, eat mostly whole. How can you break that down? Like, this is part of the how, right? How can we make that a little more practical? Right.
And so the main suggestion I'll have with that, specifically if it feels overwhelming, is don't do it all the time. Win one meal, right? Pick one meal and say, okay, I'm going to try to make breakfast this week. I'm going to try to make breakfast on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. A better meal. I'm going to try to dial it up into mostly whole, right? That would be a great way to do it. And if breakfast isn't your jam, choose lunch, choose dinner, choose, choose, maybe just do one meal this week.
Just one meal throughout the week.
And aim for mostly.
And that might mean that as we're at the grocery store that week, we're saying to ourselves, okay, what's the one meal I want to eat mostly whole this week? And then choosing those mostly whole foods so that they're available, right?
And that's it. That's even on the form that we're going to give people. That's probably my number 2 reason is it's a lot easier to eat whole if whole foods are around, right? We kind of have the rule in our houses that if there's a food in our house, it's going to get eaten. So if you're buying processed foods, they're going to get eaten. I mean, it's just one of those truths. And usually the same goes for whole food. So if you are the one that's doing the grocery shopping, you can take that first step and start to aim for foods that are mostly whole. Okay. And to give you that kind of...
And again, we don't have to change everything that we put in our cart all at once.
No.
It's okay to look messy. It's okay to take kind of baby steps.
You can still buy cardboard boxes and things in plastic,
Yeah, we can still buy our cereals and things like that. But it's a matter of kind of thinking ahead of time and thinking, okay, this is the one meal I want to plan for to be mostly whole this week. And then grabbing those things at the store, but not worrying about changing everything all at once.
If anything, ask yourself, where's the room for improvement?
Great.
And probably what's the easiest step? Not what meal needs the most improvement, but what meal would be the easiest one for you to change.
Awesome.
Right.
Yeah. What meal am I eating mostly whole in anyway? And then how can I
make that one better? Sure. That'd be a great way to do it.
Aaron. Great. Well, you guys, this is a little tough. It can be, like I said, overwhelming. Please just know that we are in this together. We're here to practice. It's okay to look messy. It's okay to be a little like, I don't know what this is. Next video, we're gonna bring at you another video that will talk about kind of that sweet spot and how to figure out what's best for you and the way that you want to eat. So please join us for that. Subscribe to our channel, and that will help you kind of know everything that we're getting out all the time. And that's all we have for you guys today. We will also link to a handout that has all of these notes ready for you, so you don't have to write them down as you listen to us. So, all right, anything else?
That's it.
Okay, make it a great day, gang. See you later.